We grow when we give.
We grow when we give.
We grow when we give.
Nosotros crecemos cuando damos.
We grow when we give.
与えるとき成長する。
We grow when we give.
Welcome to ROG, Return on Generosity, a podcast celebrating generosity at work. Not financial giving, giving valuable time, alternative perspectives, and genuine collaboration.
Our special guest today is Sheena Yap Chan, a Wall Street Journal bestselling author, keynote speaker, strategist, and award-winning podcaster, renowned for her expertise in elevating leadership and self-confidence through media. She's the founder and host of the acclaimed podcast, The Tao of Self-Confidence. We'll get to talk about that today, where she interviews women about their journeys to self-confidence. With over 1 million downloads, her podcast ranks among the top 0.5% of most popular shows globally and has featured over 900 interviews. Sheena's influence extends beyond podcasting. Her debut book that we're also going to talk about today is The Tao of Self-Confidence, a guide to moving beyond trauma and awakening the leader within. It's published by Wiley and is a Wall Street Journal and Publishers Weekly bestseller. And it's been recognized as one of the top 20 best self-confidence books of all time. What I appreciate most about you, Sheena, as we close out Women's History Month, is your commitment to women, especially Asian women. Welcome to ROG, Sheena.
Hey, Shannon. Thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor to be here today. So I'm just super excited for our conversation.
Oh, it's an honor to be with you, too. I've listened to so many of your episodes. It feels like we've known each other for so long. But we're physically meeting for the first time today.
Yes.
Give us a little bit of your background, if you don't mind.
Yeah, for sure. So I was born in the Philippines and actually moved to Toronto, Canada when I was 7. And all the work that I've done really stemmed from my upbringing in Toronto. I love Toronto. It's one of the most multicultural cities in the world. If you love food, you can literally find every cuisine in the world there. But at the same time, in media, there wasn't enough media representation. So I never saw anybody in the media that looked like me. And so I never felt like I was good enough. I felt like I had to look a certain way to feel beautiful, to feel accepted. I was ashamed of my own culture. And it wasn't until my 20s when I dyed my hair back from blonde to my original hair color where I fully embraced being Asian. And in 2015, when I was dealing with my own confidence issues, I was trying to look for resources that catered to Asian women specifically, but of course there wasn't any. And I've always wanted to create a platform where I can elevate Asian women's voices because we're constantly seen as quiet, submissive, and obedient, and I wanted to dismantle that. So I started the podcast, The Tao of Self-Confidence. Had no clue what I was doing, but I went for it anyways. And, the theme of Women's Month is, accelerate action. So just taking action, right? Mm-hmm. Being able to interview over 800 women on the podcast, getting over 1 million downloads. Like I never thought that was something that would ever happen. I was just happy. I just wanted to create something, not knowing where it was going to go. And as much as I love podcasting, it's still a very small platform compared to other media platforms. And so I wanted to tap into different media platforms to really get the message across and create visibility. And that's when books came into play. I had my first co-authored book called Asian Women Who Boss Up, which highlights the stories of Asian women sharing their path, how they're able to forge their own path, overcome obstacles, and thrive. And that led me to writing my first book with Wiley, as you mentioned, The Tao of Self-Confidence, a guide to moving beyond trauma and awakening the leader within. I wrote that book in less than 3 months to get it out.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
Hit the Wall Street Journal bestseller list. And I have my second book coming up this May, which is called Bridging the Confidence Gap, How Empowered Women Change the World. And this stems from the World Economic Forum, mentioning that at the time when I wrote this, they mentioned that gender parity would be achieved at the earliest in the year 2154. So that's at the time I wrote the book, but now it's changed. They delayed it 4 more years. So now the earliest would be 2158. And so at the rate we're going, I feel like it's just going to keep delaying. So it's really important for us to step up, to show up, to take action so that we can, bridge this gap. We can shave off a couple more years off of that gender parity timeline. I mean, that's when you think about it, it's going to take 5 generations at least before we see it, right? So we're not going to see it.
Right.
Kids are not going to see it. Your grandkids, maybe your great-great-grandkids if you're lucky. But I mean, that's a big deal, right? Because I mean, there's still so many things that women deal with. You look at Afghanistan where women's rights are totally stripped away from them. They can't sing in their own homes, can't show their faces, can't talk, can't go to school, can't get a job. Like it's horrendous to think about that in 2025. So excited for the book to come out. And other than that, I also do workshops and talks for companies, individuals about confidence and leadership. So that's a little bit about me.
That's exciting. Well, thank you for that. I want to go back to one of the points that you were making about when you were in your 20s, I believe you said, when you dyed your hair back to your natural color. I mean, what caused that
Oh,
to happen?
so of course, being a woman isn't cheap, right? So dyeing your hair was like something out of the whim. I was like, I'll try something new. But upkeeping it was not cheap either, right? Like imagine you have to retouch your roots about like every 3 months. It's going to cost you at least $80. And that was like 20 years ago. So $80 was a lot.
A lot. Yeah.
I mean, it's still
Yeah.
a lot when you think about it in today's terms still, but that's why I decided, I'm not going to keep paying $80 every 3 months to retouch my roots. I'm just going to have it dyed back to my original hair color. So really it was out of me being not wanting
It
to
was
pay
economics
$80
at the start. Yeah.
that led me to that moment.
And then how did that feel for you to like, it sounds like embrace your authenticity
Yeah.
even more than you had been?
Yeah, so I remember when the hairdresser revealed my natural hair color or close to the natural, because if you dye your hair black, it's like it's not natural. It kind of looks like it's too black, like a jet black type of thing.
Yeah.
So that's why I was like, just give me a really natural color, like give me the darkest brown you could ever find. And then when I looked in the mirror, like I just really saw who I was. I don't know if that makes sense. I just like,
Totally makes sense.
this is me. This is who I
Yeah.
am. And then like from then on, I never dyed my hair after that. So
That's incredible. And there's something to that. And I know we're going to talk more about self-confidence today, but that look, the reflection in the mirror and our reaction to it is, I think, it's important.
it is.
Like just who do you see, and is that a reflection of genuinely who you are? One of the things that you talk about are aha moments. You ask a lot of your guests about their aha moments. I'm
Yeah.
just curious to learn about some of yours.
I think my biggest one was when my aunt passed away and about 13 years ago. She passed away from a horrific accident. And what I loved about I love my aunt, but what I love most about her was she was able to do a lot of things in her later years. So like in her 50s, she went to travel, rock climbing, scuba diving, all these things. And so she really lived a full life. When I heard of her death, it was a shock to all of us, of course. And it also made me realize like life is so short. We don't know what's going to happen. Like I could die tomorrow, right? Like it's so unpredictable. I mean, look at like current events. Like it feels like someone's dying every minute, right?
Right.
And so it made me realize like, I could die any minute and I haven't really done anything to that, that I really wanted to do. Like I didn't want to leave this earth with no regrets. And so that was the starting point of like me trying to figure out, well, what is it that I really want to do? How am I going to do this? Like, we ask all these questions and sometimes we, especially generally as women, we tend to overthink to the point where we resist, right? I know because I've been there. I've done that so many times.
Right.
But I realized like if I just keep doing the same thing that I'm doing, like I'm going to be miserable and like I'm not going to be happy. Right. And so I decided to, forge my own path. Like it took a while. It didn't happen overnight, but it was the start of thinking like, what can I do? Right. There's so many people out there who are doing amazing things. We're in a world where we can utilize AI to like really just stretch, right? Stretch. And I know for some people it's very scary, this new technology, but I think, it's a great time to learn it, to embrace it, because guess what? It's here to stay. It's going to keep evolving. And, there's also a huge gap for men and women in the AI space, right? So we don't want a gap in that, right? We want women to utilize it for their businesses, for their careers, for leadership, because it is a powerful tool when used good. Like anything, right? Of course, if you use good, it's going to be good. But if you use it for bad, crypto or money, even money, right? So it's a tool, but
it's a tool.
We can choose that tool. Yeah, we can use that tool for good. So, I mean, when I start telling people about AI and all the different things you can do, They're like, aren't you scared? Aren't you scared? I'm like, if I go through life just being scared, then nothing gets done.
Right.
Of
That's so
course, there's
true.
pros and cons with everything, right? And we have to, like outweigh the good from the bad, right? So, uh,
Yeah, that is so true. And, it's a leveler. AI is a leveler where it's like everyone who has internet has access to it, and it does provide a lot of support and help and good ideas. So I think, finding the right way to integrate that into how we run our lives is a smart thing to do. And it can save us time, and then we can use that time to do other things.
yeah, especially as women, like women are natural born caretakers, regardless if you have kids or not. Like we're the ones, you know, taking care of our parents, running errands, doing all these little nitty gritty things, especially if you have kids, like, you have to do everything. And we need to find ways to, you know, live our life a little bit easier. And if AI can do that, then why not? Why wouldn't you utilize it? I mean,
You're
if
right.
it can help you save an hour of your time, you can do a lot in an hour, right? You can go spend time with your kids, go shopping, have me time, whatever you
Yeah.
want to do. All
Think
because now
about,
you have a new tool that can help it. And I know it's not always easy. For so long we've been programmed that we have to be the superwoman of everything, but nobody says like the man needs to be the superman of everything. Like they like outsource everything, right?
yeah,
Because they're used to doing that. As women, we're not used to doing that. We're used to
right,
like doing everything on our own. And so
right.
we have to like think things differently, do things a little bit differently that can, have minimal, like, working smarter too, right? Like,
Mhm.
yes, we have to work
Working
hard,
smarter,
but
using your
working smarter,
resources.
yeah, right? So,
Totally,
yeah.
totally. So when you started your podcast and then wrote your book, you were really trying to solve a problem. You recognized that there was no other offering like that one, and it wasn't helping people to learn about women's issues or even just self-confidence as a topic. Curious to know, like, where did that come from? Where did that drive to like identify an issue and then create a solution for it? Where do you think that came from for you?
I think for me, it's just my upbringing, being in an Asian household, it's not always easy. Just being in Asian culture, there's just so many rules, especially when you're a woman. You're taught to go to school, get a job, get married, never rock the boat, never show your, always be in the background, don't make any noise. And so that really hurts us, right? Because we feel like we're invisible. We have no voice. We go through so many like thoughts in our head, and we have all these repressed feelings. It's gonna create a lot of mental health issues, trauma, just low self-confidence because we feel like we can't show up. And so, it started with me feeling that way. And I realized, there could be other people who were feeling that way. And that's when I started the podcast, writing books, especially like with the Tao of Self-Confidence. Trauma is something that's not often talked about. And people constantly ask me like, well, how do you build confidence? How do you boost your confidence? And I can totally share so many ways to build confidence. But if you don't work through your traumas, like it's not going to matter how many times I tell you, this is how you do it. This is how you do it. Like you really need to focus on the root cause as
Right.
to why you're feeling this way. And people don't even realize like we're not only carrying our own traumas, we're carrying the traumas of our parents or grandparents. They say it goes down 4 generations deep. I feel like it goes way deeper, especially as women historically. We've always been treated unfairly, right? It's always been like men tops women. I mean, especially in Asian culture, like you look at like China back in the day, men were allowed to have multiple wives and even concubines. And the reason for that was that there's more chances of having a son carrying the family name, right? And they don't realize how much that hurts women because we're just treated as an object or as a
Right.
baby maker, whatever,
Right.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And even you look at India, child marriages is still prevalent. Widowhood is like still very prevalent there, even though it's been abolished. Acid throwing is a thing. Like all these different issues. Or you look at like Japan, there was like a report last year that mentioned only like less than 1% of women are in like the top, like Fortune 500, like basically the equivalent to a Fortune 500 company in Japan. So like out of 1,600 companies, like less than 1% are women CEOs, like which is crazy, right? Because
Scopic.
very
Yeah.
small, and that's just last year's number, like based on last year's. It's not like it's 20 years ago. It's less than a year
Yeah,
ago.
it's less than a year, and in many cases, it's now. It's like
Yeah,
current events. And when you talked
yeah.
about the distance to equity in the, I would say, far future, when you cited those numbers, I thought, wow, that's a long time from now. And what is like fundamentally being done to improve the odds of us ever getting there.
Yeah.
And you speak to all kinds. I mean, you've spoken to over 800 women on your podcast, so you have a lot of content about self-confidence, but also about their careers. You've selected a lot of professional women and you hear their stories, and I'm sure it has helped you to like even get clearer about what are some of the challenges that women face.
Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest thing is just women is how we perceive ourselves, right? I know it's not easy. Like, there's so many gaps that women still face today, right? Like pay gap, what's the role of men and women in society, the many industries that also have gaps. So yes, that also contributes to it. And then, how we're seen as well, like, just little things like, oh, if you do this, it's not ladylike. If you do that, it's not ladylike. It's like, but who really started that, right?
Right. Yeah.
We just have to work 100 times harder, unfortunately, right? Like,
Yeah.
yesterday I was on another interview and someone asked me if like the clothes you wear matter. And as for women, especially if you're in a career or in a business, the clothes you wear do matter, unfortunately, right? Because we can't just show up in a Hawaiian shirt and look like a hippie. Guys can, right? Like, I've seen men who are like, in VC, like getting like 7-figure, funds, and then they're in like a Hawaiian t-shirt. Like, if a woman did that, like, we would not be taken seriously.
Right. Yeah.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
you have to like dress to success, right? We have to look that part so that we can be taken seriously. And that wasn't the case. Maybe eventually it will change. But at this point, like, these are certain things that we have to do to break through that, right? Even the labels women's are placed, right? Like, if you go out there and do things on your own or forge your path or just, you go after things, like, you're seen as like cutthroat and too ambitious and too much. And if a man did the same thing, it's like, oh, he's confident, he's courageous. I'm like, are you serious? But then we have to keep pushing for this so that we can abolish these labels that we've been put through. And
Absolutely.
it's not, I know it's not easy. It's not easy, right? Because if it was, everybody would be doing it.
Be done. Yeah.
But
what do you think perpetuates it?
I think it's just something that's been ingrained in society for so long, and it's been passed on from generation to generation. It's just stuck, right? And nobody ever really brought it up until now, maybe. And so, it wasn't, we never thought it was like a huge thing when really it was, right? Because then it hurts us. Like, we're going to be too afraid to take action because we've been labeled as too much, or we've been labeled as too ambitious or too assertive, not realizing, well, if you're an entrepreneur, you're going to have to be a little bit more assertive. You're going to have to be a little bit more ambitious, because how are you going to make things happen if you don't go out there and take action? And, I know that every year that in Women's Month, there's always a theme. And I love this year's theme, Accelerate Action, because that's how you get things done. You just go out there and take action. Will you take the right action? Probably not. Are you going to make mistakes? Yeah, probably, right?
Yeah.
But I always say sometimes those mistakes leads you to your greatest opportunity. And the only way for you to get a result is to make these mistakes so you can figure out what went wrong, what went right, how you can pivot it. And you'd have a lot more results by doing that than, trying to get everything ready, trying to make sure everything's perfect to a T. So I really love that, especially in a time where it's like, it's so needed now. When we keep hearing about when gender parity is going to be achieved, it's delayed how many more years, like, Accelerate Action is like the time, like, is a great theme now to go out there and just take that action. And I'm no one's saying it's not scary. It's scary. I mean, I still get scared. I still have doubts, and so, but that's normal, right? Like, I think it's important to share that, because a lot of people think, well, you're confident, you've been doing this. I'm like, just because I talk about it doesn't mean I'm always confident. There's days where I have sweaty palms, I stutter, I have like butterflies in my stomach, my anxiety comes up because we're always pushing ourselves. We're always doing something new. We're always like doing something uncomfortable. So like that all still creeps up. But the only difference is now there's tools and resources that really help you go out there and make it happen.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, yes, there's a lot of things we still deal with. There's a lot of things that have been put on women. And at the same time, like, we also need to go out there and take action, right? And it's going to be hard. It's going to be like 1 step forward, 5 steps back, but at least we have that 1 step forward. And if we keep taking one more step, like, just imagine how far we could go.
Right. And doing it together is important
But yeah,
because I think, whenever something major happens, I think it's just such a sucker punch to us that it's like you just need the rest of the group to like lift us back up and get, or let you just sit on the sidelines for a minute because sometimes it's just so devastating that you just need to privately recuperate yourself and then get back in the fight with the rest of us. But I think if you don't have that group, it will feel very isolated, lonely, and quite dangerous.
but yeah. I mean, I believe in having support. I believe, being okay to ask for help, being okay to receive help. And even that is still very uncomfortable for me. We've been taught that asking for help is a sign of weakness, or, we're like asking for a handout, but it's like, you can't do everything by yourself. Like, I can't do this all by myself. Like, I mean, I can't save the world by myself, right? It takes a village, it takes a community. And so this is why like having Women's Month is so important because it bands all of us together, right? Some
Yeah.
people might think, well, it's just a month. Everybody has a month, but it's like, if you go beyond it, it actually helps us, be motivated, be able to take action, and then utilize that motivation to keep moving forward beyond Women's Month, right? I mean, Women's Month doesn't mean you get to be a woman for 1 month. You're a woman every single day, but sometimes you need this to just amplify, to motivate yourself, and realize what
Yeah,
your true power is, right?
for sure.
Women are, I believe that women can do so many amazing things. They're so capable of doing so many great things.
Hmm.
But the biggest thing that holds them back is their self-worth, how they perceive themselves. Because that low self-esteem, it really hinders you from, doing the things that you want to do or being able to create the things that you want to do. And
Right.
so
And
it's
how,
important to talk about these things because people don't realize, like, or some people think they're the only ones dealing with this.
right. Yeah. You feel alone until you put it out there and you get a lot of head nods and people saying, yeah, tell me what I can do differently.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is really important to do that. And, looking at the workplace as a forum for some of these dynamics, I would love to get your thoughts on the two sides of the equation. One is, as an Asian woman, what are some of the things that you've learned from all of these interviews that our listeners could better understand just the lived experience? Like you've mentioned a couple of them
Yeah.
in our conversation already, but I think it'd be helpful to just educate our listeners on, what does it feel like?
I mean, I think being Asian, like, there's just so many things we go through. And, we're always taught to be the perfect daughter, wife, sister. And that gets exhausting, right? We always feel like we have to put up a front, that we don't complain, that, we just do it because that's all we've been told to do. We've been told to work hard because when we work hard, we can reap the benefits. But, that's not always the case, especially in the workplace, right? When you like, yes, it's important to work hard, but sometimes that's all you're known for. And working hard doesn't equate to leadership, right? It doesn't mean that you would be seen as a leader. Sometimes you're just seen as a hard worker. So, we're not taught to network, to make relationships. We're just taught to work, right?
Yeah, heads
But
down, get it done.
yeah,
Yeah.
but it's also about learning to work smart. What does that look like, right? Being able to connect with your coworkers, connect with your boss, being able to attend like events outside of the workplace, right? Because it makes a huge difference. People get to know you on a deeper level and they can see your potential and be like, well, I've actually hung out with her during like our lunches, and actually she has a lot of great ideas that I never thought she would ever bring up. And so, these little things make a huge difference.
Hmm.
And it's a shame because, we work hard. We think, oh, because we work so hard, we're going to get the promotion, and then we don't. And then we feel so bad about ourselves because we didn't do it. And then our parents would be like, well, why didn't you get it? You worked hard. Like, you must have done something wrong, right? When really it's like, it's not that you didn't do anything wrong. It's just you just been taught a certain way. And then now you just need to kind of tweak a little bit to really
Right.
get out
Yeah.
there.
So
Yeah.
like what are some of the things that you would encourage our listeners to do that would be proactive and, enable you to get some of those opportunities?
I mean, like, I think for me, like, be okay to make the first move. I know that's not something we're taught to do, especially as women, right? Like, in life, we're not really taught to do that. Like, you look at dating, right? Or like, yeah, you look at dating, right? Like,
Dating is a great example.
dating is a great example because men have been practicing how to just go out there, get rejected, keep moving forward, right? Like if a guy's at a club, his goal is to get one number. And if he has to go through 100 women just to get the one number, he will do it, right? Because at the end, his end goal is, I just need one girl's number, right? One girl's number. And when he hits it, it's like he won the lottery. Like he forgets the 100 women that like said no,
The
threw a drink
99.
at him, ghosted him. He's focused on
Yeah.
the one number. Meanwhile,
Right.
we're not taught to do that. We're taught to just have men come at us, just wait for things to happen. And if we have our first rejection, it's like the most, it's like the end of the world.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so I'm not saying, to apply in dating, but that's fine too. Like be okay to like make the first move too, right? Actually, I've spoken to a lot of women and they're like, I actually had to make the first move just to get things going. So,
Yeah.
And when I mean get things, like, just have that, like starting that
Yeah.
bond or that
Yeah.
relationship.
The first connection or the, yeah.
Yeah. And for me, like making the first move in your workplace, like that could be a great thing, right? Because it shows initiative. It shows that you want to be a leader, that you want to know, you want to learn, because sometimes the other person can't read what you're thinking. So if they don't know what you're thinking, how do you expect them to like think that you want this, right? If you
Right.
just
And people are so busy with their own priorities. They're not thinking, oh, I wonder if she needs some mentoring or
or if she wants the
she would,
promotion, right? Like
yeah.
if you want the promotion, just ask like your boss, like, hey, just curious, like what are the qualifications I need to do to, get to the next level? So at least you're planting that seed, right?
Yeah.
And then they can advise you on different things. And it just starts somewhere, right? Like most of the things wouldn't have happened for me if I didn't go out there and make the first move, right? Like writing a book, podcasting, connecting with so many amazing women, getting speaking opportunities. Like I just made the first move and it just snowballed into something else.
Right. Right. And I love how you talk about how it's not like you made the first move and then it was this instant success. You also have shared about you get those rejections, you get those
But yeah, I've
no's,
gotten
and then
rejected, I've gotten ghosted, but
yeah.
I mean, at least for me, I'm grateful that I have a result versus not having a result, because sometimes we're like, well, what if I did do this? But that what if is it's gonna drive you, it's gonna like, it's just like, it's going to be a lot on you because you keep thinking about it to the point where you're not going to do anything, versus like you just go out there, get rejected, be like, okay, you can wallow in it for a little bit. You can eat your feelings. Like I do that. And then I pick myself back up and I keep moving forward. So,
Right. Right.
and this takes practice. This doesn't happen overnight, of course. Like the first time I got rejected, yes, I thought it was the end of the world. I mean, I'm the girl who failed kindergarten in the Philippines for
Yes, you
coloring
have to tell
outside
that
the
story.
line. Like,
Please tell that story.
yeah, like, I couldn't color one photo within the lines. The teacher gave me a brand new photo to color and I still colored outside the lines. And because I could not color a photo within the lines of one photo, I had to move to another school and redo kindergarten all over again. And that also went into my adult life, thinking that I was always just going to fail. So this is why working through your trauma is so important, because it helps you see things from a different perspective. It helps you heal. It helps you realize what happened when you were 5 is not going to happen today. And, learning to work through that, I realized like I was just always meant to color outside the lines. I was always meant to do something different. That's what it was telling me. But I couldn't
Yeah.
see that because I've been programmed to see it in another way, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
In a very rigid way.
I just love that it's a metaphor that people use for being unique. And it was literally what happened to you.
Yes.
Right. So it's just like you said, this is just you were designed this way. You were made this way. And thank God you overcame those setbacks and found a productive way to express your voice and bring us along with you, which I think is so great. Want your advice here. I have a colleague who is an Asian woman, senior leader, very senior leader, and she's working in an organization where she's not given the respect that she deserves. In fact, some people have made very derogatory comments to her. Like one person has asked her to make copies, another person asked her to clean the conference room. What would you say to her?
I mean, that's a great question. And every situation is really different, right? Like I can, give you the advice, but, it's up to the person to work through it, and sometimes being a leader is hard, right? Sometimes you have to make really hard choices. It's like, do you still want to be in that environment? Are you going to set boundaries? Are you going to speak up? Because unfortunately, sometimes speaking up does have consequences, right? I mean, there was an article, I think a couple of years back, about all these tech leaders who spoke up and actually got fired for it, right? And they're all suing because of like wrongful dismissal for speaking up, talking about racism in the workplace and things like that. So yes, if sometimes being a leader, there's consequences. And I think that's what most people don't realize. And that's what most people are afraid is the consequences, right? But if you're okay with taking those consequences, then, that's how you make change. Like these leaders, these tech leaders wouldn't have been able to make a name, like wouldn't have been able to sue these companies for wrongful dismissal if they didn't speak up. And then if they didn't speak up, it would be the same toxic work culture all over again.
Right.
So,
right. And you said it earlier that it's like the work starts with ourselves, doing the deeper work and like, what do you stand for? What do you believe in?
yeah.
In order for you to get to that self-confidence so that you can establish those boundaries and manage through the situations in a productive way that helps that person to understand that that's not okay.
Yeah.
And, reestablishes your
And
status.
I mean, every company has an HR department. I think it's also it's important to talk about that, to see what policies there are, I mean, that's why HR is there, right? To address these situations as well.
Yeah.
And if they don't address it, then you have to take other measures, right? To get the word across.
Totally.
So, I mean, I remember sharing a story about Kim Ing. She was the first like head coach for in the baseball. So like she was the first like basically like the first head coach, like the first woman that was like a head coach in like any sports industry, right? And which is great because she broke that barrier and it took her forever to get there, right? But even then, like she led the Miami Marlins to like their first World Series in like over 20 years. And so she thought she would have gotten the next level because she does have a really great track record. And I hope I did say her name right. I think it is Kim Ing. But unfortunately, they actually hired somebody else from outside that would replace her. And so she decided to walk away because she knew her worth. So sometimes you might have to walk away. And I know walking away can be scary, but she realized her worth. She walked away from it, realizing like there's so many other opportunities. She knows her worth. She has the proof to back it up. I mean, every like baseball like fan that I know, like even the guys are like, she's like phenomenal. She's great. They were so happy when she got that position at the time.
Yep.
They know that she has what it takes to lead a really great team. So yeah.
Yeah, I love that story. It reminds me of the Jeremy Lin story, on the New York Knicks, and just like his documentary is so good. It's called like 33 at the Garden, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's a great story just about how he overcame all of these obstacles. And really, the number one obstacle is that he was Asian.
Yeah.
And people just weren't going to recruit him for college or for the NBA. And then he gets out there and he crushes it. And then, it just like leveled up. Like and it was exactly what you're doing, which is like, if you can't see it, you can't be it. So how can I be it so that other people can see it, right? Fill in the void that's missing.
Yeah. So yeah, it's not always an easy question because there are a lot of, especially in corporate, right? Like there's so many little things and like processes and like, it gets complicated sometimes. But I think sometimes too, like we have to make a decision, when it comes to change. Do we really want it? Are we willing to sacrifice certain things? Kind of like the tech leaders, like they got fired, right? Just for
Sure.
And there was even another lady that shared her story last year, how she went to a networking event with her male coworkers and she ended up in the hospital after that at 3 a.m. because they fed her drinks. They might have drugged her. I don't know. But like she instead got fired instead for saying that she had for substance abuse, even though she didn't have that, right? And she's also, suing the company for that, for wrongful dismissal and just everything was wrong with it. So that's why like, having HR is important. But if they're not backing you up, then what do you do next? Right?
Yeah.
So she had to go to the next thing to get her message across, to be heard. And this is something that's probably most women go through, right? Like that bro culture, that toxic culture in the workplace.
Totally.
And it needs to be addressed because she was able to share her story. So many other women had the courage to share their story because they've been through similar situations. So,
Right. So, return on generosity, right? There's a reciprocal goodness that comes from giving, and we're not giving so that we can get something, but we do get the joy of either receiving the goodness of others or to offer it. What's a favorite story of yours from the workplace where you have seen generosity in action?
I mean, for me, like in the workplace, my coworkers has always been nice. Like my boss would always take me out to lunch. We'd chat. He'd give me advice, and he would always, because I would always worry a lot. Like I would always worry about the worst case scenario. I'd be like, what if like I get fired from this place and I have no job? Then what am I gonna do with my life? I love that he would always be like, why do you worry about that? And if one door closes, just remember there's another door opening. And so for me, that always stuck with me, because when I feel like I didn't get, a speaking engagement or got rejected for something, it just means that there's another door out there for me to open. So I think just being able to give that advice
Yeah.
is important, especially to a lot of people out there listening. Like when one door closes, just know another one's opening. So
Yeah. Trust that. Yeah, absolutely. So tell us a little bit more about the Tao of Self-Confidence. You call it a guide to moving beyond trauma and awakening the leader within.
yeah.
First of all, I love that you called it the Tao. Tell me how,
Yeah, I mean,
in
for
your
me, like,
brainstorming, how that came up.
I mean, that really came up from my podcast. For me, like the Tao meant the way. So everyone has a different way of building confidence, because like there's 7, 8 billion people in the world. We're not all going to build confidence the same way. So being able to interview all these women gives them different ways to that and how they can utilize it in their own journey. And with the book, it was really just about talking about, the deep root cause as to why we're not feeling confident. Like trauma is something that we don't talk about. Trauma is something that we just put in the back burner. If there was one good thing that came out of the lockdowns and the pandemic 5 years ago, it was that mental health was a little bit more normalized, right? We're allowed to say, hey, I'm not having a great day. Mental health isn't the greatest today. It was more accepted to seek therapy, because back then, if you went to seek therapy, everyone thought you were crazy or something was wrong with you. But now
Right.
it's like going to the gym, right? Like you need to do something to keep yourself physically fit. Well, you also need to do things to keep your mind mentally fit, right? Because your body and mind is also connected.
Yeah.
So, this really was a book that helps people out there really just be okay to talk about the traumas they go through, being able to find the root cause why they're feeling this way, and then being able to go out there and seek help. I've had
Good.
women and men who came up to me saying how the book has helped them have difficult conversations with their own family members, how it resonated with them. Of course, the book was talking about the problems that Asian women go through, because nobody ever talks about it, but it doesn't mean that it can't relate to anybody else. Like we
Right.
all go through similar things. We all have gone through some form of trauma.
Mm-hmm.
So having a book like this is so important, so that there's a guide to it to help us realize, like, well, what are the steps? What can we do? Or to
Yeah.
First of all, not everyone is even aware there's a trauma in their life that's really stopping them. That's the first thing. And so how do we
That's the
even
starting
find that out?
place.
How do we figure out the different types of trauma that we go through? So this is more like a guide,
Yeah.
also, finding different ways to build confidence. So it's a little bit different because nobody really talks about the root cause as to why we're not feeling that way
What are some of the examples
of trauma.
of trauma?
Yeah, I mean, like me failing kindergarten, childhood trauma is really prevalent. PTSD is a huge thing. Like when people think about PTSD, they think you have to be in the army or the Navy to do that. But no, PTSD happens to everybody, right? There's money trauma, which is, as I think as women, we go through a lot of money trauma because, it stems from how we perceive ourselves, not seeing our worth, and also outside forces not seeing our worth, right? Like, especially like, if you're in like the speaking industry, sometimes it's frustrating because, people expect you to speak at a lower rate or free. Meanwhile, there's a guy out there who's getting paid 4 or 5 figures for the same exact topic. And so of course that hurts us too, because we're like, well, what are we doing that's wrong? We're doing this exact same thing, yet I'm not getting paid as much, or I'm not getting paid. Meanwhile, this person is. Or, we're an entrepreneur, we feel like we have to lower our prices because someone complains it's too much, not realizing they just don't see your worth. They just don't see what you can accomplish.
Right.
And so we, that hurts us. Like money trauma is a big thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's sexual trauma, violence, like all those things affect us.
Yeah.
There's so many different types that we can discuss. That would probably take forever, but these are some of the
Yeah.
common
But
ones.
some of the examples.
Yeah.
And because of those traumatic experiences, it negatively affects our self-confidence. So because you somehow think you are to blame, or that there's something, that there's a fault that you have, or some imperfection that's like you're never going to overcome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So doing that work and recognizing that you are enough and that you're imperfect, and that's how we're designed.
Yep. We're imperfect and it's totally okay.
Yeah, exactly. I'm imperfect, so are you. Let's get on to the next thing. So you've interviewed all these women, and similar to ROG, right? People always ask me, like, is there a common denominator? Like, what is the return on generosity? And I'm like, everybody's got their own position on it, and there are similarities for sure.
Yeah.
So just of the many women that you've spoken to, what are some of the similarities that you have recognized?
I think, as women, like, we always feel like, again, like, we're not good enough, or like we need to please everybody else. We have to take care of everybody else, and we forget to take care of the most important person, which is ourself. We're not taught to, do self-care routines, practice self-love, not being able to make a decision because we feel like we have other people making our decisions for us. The fear, the resisting, the imposter syndrome, the overthinking, that really all
The
hurts us.
perfection.
Yeah, the perfectionism, like
Yeah.
the labels, it hurts us, right? And so,
Yeah.
it's also, sometimes it's also up to us to find that solution, because if not, nothing ever happens.
Right. And I'm a huge fan of women supporting women and empowering women and recognizing and really like elevating women. So what are some of the things that you have seen and do? I know that you do this yourself, that are productive ways to empower other women.
Yeah, I mean, I think joining women's groups is important, right? Like knowing that there's other women out there who understand what you're going through, I think really helps out a lot. Having your group core is important, like again, reaching out to different networks, being able to make the first move and be like, hey, what do I need to do to be in this community, right? Like, wow, what are the requirements or things like that? Or just like sometimes you got to be a little bit uncomfortable and just go out there, right? Even sometimes when I go to networking events, like it's still very uncomfortable for me. 'Cause, like, I don't know what to say sometimes. Some people already know each other and then you're there, you don't know anybody. But like, I also push myself to go up and just say hi,
Yeah, just
and
wedge in.
yeah, just be like, hey, and then that can lead to something else. So,
Yeah.
and then also listening to podcasts like these, reading books, all these things can help you out.
They
So
can
I
all
think,
help.
yeah, having, working on your personal development every single day is really important.
Mm. Yeah. What are some of your best practices there?
I think
Like some of
having
your good habits?
I mean, I say affirmations when I feel self-doubt, and I don't say 100, I just say like 3. Like keep it very simple. I have a group core where I can talk to. If I'm feeling low, I like watch an like a inspirational interview on YouTube,
Mhm.
or I look at the things that I've done before and realize like I've done all these before. If I can do this, like it's still possible for me. And just being able to interview all these women on the podcast also really inspires me, because hearing their stories makes me realize like I'm not alone in this journey, and we can do this. We can like totally do this. So
Totally do this.
yeah,
Yeah. And your new book, Bridging the Confidence Gap, is coming out when?
May. So
In May.
yeah,
Okay.
it's available for pre-order. So you can pre-order on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, all the book retailers.
Okay. And where can people find out more about you? And then I want to do some rapid fire questions if you're up for it.
Yeah, for sure. So people can
Okay.
check out my website, SheenaYapChan.com. I have a free self-confidence personality quiz that you can take. You can pre-order Bridging the Confidence Gap, like I mentioned, on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles. The Tao of Self-Confidence, you can get a copy on the same book retailers. I'm on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram,
And subscribe to your podcast.
TikTok. Oh yeah, I got the podcast. Subscribe to the podcast, The Tao of Self-Confidence,
So
on
good.
Google, Oh no, there's no more Google. On Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube and other podcast platforms. But I always tell people, if you forgot anything I mentioned, just Google my name, Sheena Yap Chan, because I'm the only Sheena Yap Chan on the internet.
I did check that because I've heard you say that before, and I was like, there she is.
Yeah, so that makes it a lot easier.
Links to all of what she just said will be in the show notes. So feel free to go to the show notes and just click away and subscribe. So good. All right. So ready for some rapid fire?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay. And I know it's early where you are, so I applaud you for being so quick to respond. What is one song that you can't help to dance to when you hear it?
Oh my gosh, I'm having a blank. Oh,
like you're in your car and this comes on, or maybe you just have it on the Spotify and you play it on purpose.
I mean, I like K-pop songs because they are upbeat, so it gets me dancing. So yeah, like I'll just be bopping my head when I put it on my playlist.
Oh my gosh, that's so good. What's one thing that women can do today to build their confidence?
Take one step forward, just one step. I always tell people Rome wasn't built in a day, so don't expect yourself, don't expect to have something done in 2 seconds. Just take it one step at a time.
I agree, right? We have unrealistic expectations. Who is one of the guests on your podcast that really changed you?
So I interviewed this lady who was born with no arms. So she does everything with her feet. She's the first armless pilot. Yes, she flies her plane with her feet. And so sometimes we feel like we have limitations that stops us from taking action. But, hearing her story, she has a limitation, but it's never stopped her from doing the things that she wanted. So that was a big,
Right. You're like, if she can do that.
Yeah.
I can
have
call
no excuse.
that person back. Yeah. Oh, that's so good. What never fails to make you laugh?
Just, I guess, the funny moments in life. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Just watching a video on Instagram and you just laugh, right? Like the memes or whatever it is.
I know, totally. What's one of the coolest places you've ever traveled to?
I mean, I love Paris. It's beautiful. It's just everywhere goes an Instagram photo waiting to happen. I love
Right.
Hawaii.
It's one of the carousels, right? You're you can't get enough.
Yeah, the cobblestone roads.
Yes.
I also love Hawaii. Hawaii is just beautiful and it's just energetically there's just something there. And then just different parts of Asia, is beautiful. So yeah.
Yeah. Just so naturally gorgeous.
Yeah.
What's one of your favorite foods?
Noodles. Anything with noodles. Yeah.
Yeah. It's if that's on the menu, you're picking it.
Yeah.
How do you want to be remembered?
I guess just someone who was able to make a difference in the world. That's really it, and hopefully that snowballs into other people being inspired and taking action as well. So that's
For sure.
Yeah.
What's a life lesson that you will never forget?
One life lesson I'll never forget is resilience is a big thing in life. A lot of people think there's a secret to being successful. What's the secret? What's the secret? You think there's a vault with a secret to all the success, but really it's just being very, very persistent and resilient.
Exactly.
Because you're going to go through a lot of more bad things than good things. Mm-hmm. And so having that resilience can really help a long way because you're going to get pushed down a lot. You get pushed down, you pick yourself back up. Push down, pick yourself back up. You get rejected, you go on to the next one and to the next one. So
it's your former boss who is when one door closes, another one opens, right? And just keeping that in mind.
Yeah. So you just, if you believe in what you do, you just got to be very resilient. You just got to be very persistent because it will happen. Yes. There's no timeline, but it will happen if you keep going.
And so last question, and this is one that you ask all of your guests. What is your favorite confidence quote?
Oh my goodness.
One of them. You've heard a lot of them.
I've heard so many. I don't even at this point.
Or maybe you make it up some of your guests, I know
they make it up.
I just made that up.
I mean, for me, confidence is just being able to take one action step at a time. That's it.
That's a great confidence quote.
Yeah. One action step at a time to your greatness.
Yes. One action step at a time to your greatness. Perfect. Well, thank you investing your beautiful soul and your life work and your spirit with us. We're so deeply grateful.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been a fun conversation.
Thanks for listening to ROG, Return on Generosity Podcast. Please help us grow by subscribing and reviewing us on your favorite podcast player. And for more information, visit bridgebetween.com. We grow when we give.
우리는 나누면서 성숙합니다.
We grow when we give.
On rayonne quand on donne.
We grow when we give.